I was and remain troubled by where the President seemed to be heading on this issue. Previous administration claimed the right to pick up anyone, even an American citizen, anywhere in the world. Designate that person as a so-called enemy combatant, even if he never engaged in any actual hostilities against the United States, and lock that person up possibly for the rest of his life unless he can prove without a lawyer and without access to all or sometimes any of the evidence against him that he is not an enemy combatant. Now that position was anathema to the rule of law. And while the President indicated a desire to create a system that is fairer than the one the previous administration employed, any system that permits the government to indefinitely detain individuals without charge or without a meaningful opportunity to have accusations against them adjudicated by an impartial arbiter violates basic American values and is likely unconstitutional. The President follows through on this suggestion of establishing a new legal regime for a prolonged detention to deal with a few individuals at Guantanamo. He runs the very real risk of establishing policies and legal precedents that will not rid our country of the burden of the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, but instead, I think, merely sets the stage for future Guantanamos, whether on our shores or elsewhere, with potentially disastrous consequences for our national security. Worse, those policies and legal precedents would be effectively enshrined as acceptable in our system of justice, having been established not only by a largely discredited administration, but by a successive administration, with a greatly contrasting position on legal and constitutional issues. It's my view that a great deal of what was wrong with Guantanamo stemmed from an arrogance that the previous administration sometimes demonstrated about the rule of law. It established a prison that it thought was beyond the reach of the law, and it asserted the power to put people in that prison with only the barest regard for the law. President Obama clearly wants to take a different approach. He spoke at the National Archives of, quote, constructing a legitimate legal framework for the remaining Guantanamo detainees that cannot be transferred. This goal is admirable, but we must be very careful not to create a legal framework that is inconsistent with the very reasons we need a legal framework, to be true to our values and to regain the respect of the world for our approach to this conflict.